Working. It's 3. Is it 3? Almost. I'm looking at it's 2:59. My computer says it's 3, but I go by my phone. It's 3. It's 3 o'clock, and now office hours is on. And I am getting much better with my timing for getting the Zoom and then connecting it to the YouTube. That it's much more like, boom, my Counter Strike off is right on the point. Oh, phone's ringing. Who is it? It's for office hours. Hello, office hours. Hi. Yes, I'm going to put you on speaker. Here we go.
Sounds great.
Okay, we have a caller for office hours. Hi.
Hi. We're talking about the topic is position.
Position, yes, rider position, and how it affects the horses, especially.
I've been really delving a little bit deeper into this and experimenting with riders, and I'm trying to really understand. I think when I was thinking about the weight aid and my prior history of riding,
yes,
I was thinking only about it as right and left, like inside, outside weight.
Yes.
Not the whole weight, not the whole body as a weight aid. I understood position and I could really see it, but I didn't understand the influence, even back to front.
Yes.
So it really hit home with me because I used to jump.
Yes.
And if I'm going to go gallop cross country and I need to bring the horse back, I would bring my plumb line or my upper body over my center of gravity a little.
Yes.
Hesitate, and the horse would come back to my waist.
Yes. It's our biggest influence on a horse. Yes.
So
yes.
Experiment with that. And then I had a rider this morning who's very green on a very schooled horse.
Perfect.
And I kept, her thighs would get a little heavy. We had talked one time about the thighs being too much downward pressure. She'd get looser in the thighs, but then her upper body would fall backwards.
Right.
Almost making her water ski.
Yep.
So when I got her forward and I put a line out in front of her, like a flag, wasn't flag, but it was a lunge line, and I could follow my line and look at it. So when she looked at it, it put her upper body onto the line of travel, and she was able to get this schoolmaster horse to canter both directions on a circle, which she couldn't have done a week ago.
Wow.
And I think the last piece was the position and the eyes combination.
What?
I'm saying that right.
Okay, I'm going to say this because other people don't know. This instructor, this rider trainer who's called in is a trained physical therapist also and understands anatomy and is qualified to talk about biomechanics to us. She's not going to, she really is going to know what she's talking about. So I'm going to ask some questions, if I may, about the biomechanics of this. Especially, I'm very interested. The major said right up front, and I didn't know why, that Navagar, the number one rule is the eye. How does that affect rider position, the way of going, and our ability to use our body as an instrument to deliver the aids?
Well, I think if you think to even I'm going back to like Feldenkrais and some of the yoga stuff, the eyes lead the way. So it's our first intention. So we think the thought, our eyes lead the way. It goes into our central nervous system. It's so quick to go down through our brain, our spinal cord, to our synapses, to our muscles. So if we don't look, it's like driving. You can't drive a car if you don't know where you're going.
If you don't look where you're going, right?
Plan. It's an inherent plan that your body kind of creates a full motor loop for. And if you don't have that plan, your body can't
execute the plan. And the horses then also, their second nature becomes to follow our eye and to be on the same line that we're seeing. And that informs them. I'm thinking of a time of you riding a week or two ago when we started talking about, you started talking about the vertebrae being arranged properly on the line.
Yes, very literally.
Very literally.
Properly on
Yes, exactly. That's what you said. You said literally the vertebrae need to be arranged on the line literally.
And you have to be loose to do that because the tension in a seat won't allow the vertebrae to have space.
Yes. And then that made me go back and re-examine what Steinbreck said on page 72 in that important section on the two golden rules, forward straight. And what he said the horse must become part of the line because his spine must be arranged properly on that line as an extension of his brain. And because it operates all the other parts of his body and as an extension of his brain, and it houses the nervous system, the organs of sensation and animation. I just love that. Sensation and animation. But back to your point and the eyes and the position. Do you think I don't think it's possible if I am really looking where I'm going when I ride, the rest of my body doesn't seem to have as many riding faults. Is that, how would you say that as a physical therapist or a trained science person?
Well, I think the head, I mean, your cervical spine is connected, your eyes are in your head, your neck is connected to your cervical, to your thoracic, to your lumbar, so your entire spine is connected. So whatever influence you have at the top is going to influence all the way down. So if your head is dropped down, you therefore have changed the weight of your pelvis. So by having the eyes lead the way, it's setting up your base support to be the fluid, the dropping of the vertical weight is purely vertical. Versus a little tip in the eyes and the head down, drops you onto your crotch,
which then right, and then it becomes riding seesaws instead of influencing hindquarters by the rider's educated seat, which is weight. I just saw. I know you know.
Look up, but if somebody looks up and their head is locked, like they look up with their nose too far up and it locks the back of their neck, that's also going to lock your low back. So it's that looseness level eyes. You know what I mean by that? Like the back of your neck stays long and open, not cramped. I think people look up and they crank their neck.
Yes.
That's wrong too. But it's almost as bad as looking down.
Yes. Yes.
So it's that whole idea of the body's in neutral. And when it's in neutral, it has the most elasticity. It's not its end ranges.
The most elasticity. That's the key, isn't it? The looseness. You know what?
Your joints are in neutral. They can have the mobility versus at a full end range.
Right.
So your head's in end range or your pelvis is in end range. You don't have that mobility that you have when they're neutral.
So my hand joints right now are just floppy neutral, meaning they could do anything from there.
Right.
I just had a
it's very interesting. And then I was trying to teach another person asked me to teach them on a trained horse. They didn't understand haunches in. And I had them exhale, soften, load, and they didn't understand the weight aid. And I've done this before too, where they were like, you try to get them to exhale, drop their weight, slide their legs slightly back, and their legs became like scissors, like really stiff. And then their body twisted and they became super stiff. And the horse was just like, oh, it did move its haunches, but it wasn't that whole idea of the whole spine.
Right. That would be more like pushing them over like a tugboat pushes a barge.
Yeah. So that was really fascinating. You see the horse completed the mission, but it wasn't, you could tell it wasn't, the neck was crooked. I mean, it wasn't pure. And it wasn't soft.
You know what I think a mistake in the riding world, in the education in riding the last probably 50 years, probably more, is that there has been, purists will still say eyes ahead and don't drop your head and make their riders do that. But I don't think they really taught the riders to look unless it was jumping, to actually look. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yes.
You know,
I
they,
mean, you hear it. You got to know your school figures, right? You hear it, but it's I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I know where a circle is. Yeah, I know where the diagonal is.
yeah,
But
but to
until you
see your circle,
actually that like boom, laser eyes
to
go here.
laser
You're
eyes,
so
yes.
far ahead. It's not so far ahead, but it's like driving a car. If I'm going to change lanes, I got to know plan ahead. It's that being ahead to go here, go there, go here, go there, instead of being behind it.
Yes.
I can't articulate that well, but
That reminds me of when the major said in the canter zigzag, I think he said concentrate or focus on the zag, not the zig. Then the riding becomes intuitive. And I think by intuitive, he probably meant that vestibular proprioception automaticness that you were referencing.
yeah, it happens so fast. And I think when we're learning a new task, you have to hear it, somebody has to ride through you. Sometimes it has to be very up it on a string.
Yep.
When you can start owning it.
Yep.
And then it becomes your own intuitiveness and riding from your own, your basis supports aligned and everything, then it can fire quick enough. It has to be so fast that it can't be stopping. There can't be any stopping to it.
Right. There's no time to think. It is really, really fast.
So I'm being fascinated by that upper body inclination to go forward in the book. So
yes.
instead of, like you said, the word incline, like people think it's leaning, if I go here, if I incline myself, I'm going here, go with me.
Yes.
If I just say, keep up with me.
Yes.
Then my horse keeps up with my weighted.
But the inclination, it got misunderstood, I think, in the US, because only in the US do we have weirdly leaning forward hunter riders. Inclination really meant the urge of the mass to continue in the same direction. Inclination of the whole horse and rider to keep going that way. And the riders, the urge of the mass of the rider's upper body informs the horse. The urge of the mass.
That's the thing that I've been pondering so much, because I think even if I'm trying to teach it, I've lost people where they tipped their upper body forward and they didn't bring their whole mass with them, and then they tilted their pelvis and dropped their front of their pelvis down, lost their back.
Right.
Whereas if they sit like a frog,
yep,
and then there's like a little bit of there's almost like a slump in the upper body, and it's not, but it's the whole body going forward instead of
the entire body, the entire thing goes forward. Yes, that's what's yeah.
That's a piece that is very hard to. You have to get people to feel it, and the horse responds to it. It's you don't have to kick.
You don't have to kick, and actually, it really only works if they're in front of your leg already, because then they are knowing. Then they're always trying to be underneath where I am. So, and like I say, I like to make the horses so keen that I can just have an inclination towards the front of my blouse, and my well-trained horse will never let me arrive to the front of my blouse. He'll be so quick behind that I never get to the front of my own blouse. That's fun riding.
That is fun. That's like rideability. That brings us the point of rideability, which the military riders had to have to save their lives.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So
those horses were made.
Rideability of, can I go here? Can I go there? Is my horse with me? It's when I watch the, what you call it, working excitation, some of those, it looks like they just think it, and that horse does it.
Yep. And they think it vestibularly. And that is, and both of, I think an important point about Durchlässigkeit, which is the original peak of the training scale. That is permeability. The word in German is the only other use of the word Durchlässig is in biochemistry for permeable cell walls, and that the the walls of two cells are permeable to each other. And so this permeability between horse and rider is physical. It's not only just my, I think it, my horse does it because we're telepathic. It's permeable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the looseness too that I've been experimenting with. When somebody loses it or feels like they're not in the rhythm, they get tight, obviously, because they lose their balance. If they can, or whatever, they feel like they're losing their balance. They don't look like it.
Right.
They can fold.
Yes.
If they can get loose enough, quick enough, fast enough, and be okay with it,
yes,
can be a little unsteady, make a mistake,
yes,
and get back to it quicker.
Yes. And to start
Then the
teaching
horse
people,
stays
yes,
looser, and there's not this like seesaw back and forth like wooden.
yes, exactly right. And it's very important. So in a really great training program, in the starting phase for a horse, the first 3 weeks to 3 months, because every horse is different, so we don't know how long they're starting phase. The first idea and the most important key idea in a good starting program that the horse learns is to loosen himself. That if something is a question, oh, just be loose, then you'll get the answer. Something scary, loosen. Something's difficult, loosen. So imagine if horses and riders from the beginning were taught that loosening is the start place. Like, if anything happens, go loose. What a great concept.
Yeah, amazing. I've been pondering that, the idea too, that we teach, same thing, we have to impart that. We teach looseness. So when there is stress, we teach looseness.
Yes. 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 And I always teach the horses, like, if a horse starts to if I can feel he's getting fatigued, I'll say, I teach them to loosen. You're tired. Loosen yourself. We're going 30 more seconds. And they'll always go, oh, and then I could go longer than 30 seconds. And then you can just say, you only have to go 30 seconds. And same with us. If we get all verklempt and like if there's a question, loosen first. That has to be trained as a default. Yeah. Looseness starts every phrase. Sorry.
Doesn't really have a basis. I've taught her, she's heard my lessons and hears me exhale.
Yeah.
Just by doing really loudly.
Yeah.
It totally changes her body. So she's figured out how to use that when she gets tense, and it works for her every time.
Yeah. It works in just normal riding, but it also just works like to have a better day and to not feel meat on, the taste of meat on your mouth if you start getting tense.
Yep.
Ugh. That you just, I know, I'm just loose. My jaw's loose. My mind's like, even if my mind isn't loose, I'm loose. My body is loose. I mean, how many times have you been able to recover from nearly falling off because you're pretty loose?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot.
A lot. It's a lot easier to stay on.
It makes me think of too when you start somebody though, like, and I did it all wrong. I was told, you should go get a schoolmaster so you can learn on it. And I was like, no, I'm going to get a Grinch punch that I know nothing about. And I'm going to get all these poor patterns in my body and tension and struggling learning to stay on.
Correct.
Instead of learning the correct way.
Yeah, so learning to be loose.
But I think if you could start people loosely, like on these schoolmasters, that makes such a difference because their body learns their way and then they can impart it to something
exactly
else.
Right. Then yes, that fortunately I was started well on very kind, lovely ponies, and they taught us looseness and they taught us falling off like the first week, like how to do an emergency. So we were just like little children. And it's the same thing with the horse, and looseness is the first thing that we want to start achieving just in our initial walk. The momentum and the going shapes looseness. We can't, and most riding we see these days is forming stiff objects into things instead of looseness. And then you get a line and you get momentum going on that line, and then the whole thing starts to come into shape. Oh, I love the subject of writing. I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's when you really start trying to shortcut somebody for some of the things that took you longer, it's amazing how you can shortcut them if you can get them to teach them these things quickly and early on. Like, it's kind of fascinating. I'm enjoying it.
Yes. Looseness first. Losgelassen. It is the, and also teaching. I had a conversation today with a rider trainer, and she's wanting to, like, I don't know when I started to be able to do it. When you can look at a situation and just know and see the whole thing going on and know one thing that you can say that'll change the whole thing or change most of it. And most of the time it's looseness.
Yeah.
To just improve something, loosening is probably going to improve it.
The other thing that's really hit home that makes a difference that I've experimented with that really got across to me was that you read it in books, same thing, ear, shoulder, hip, and the upper arm, the back of the upper arm is on the thumb line and stays there. Your elbow is the hinge. I would drop my shoulders, and that would lose the effectiveness of my weight.
Yes. And when we give the rein, even if we're going to extend our arm all the way, I extend my straight line elbow to bit. I don't give my arm and my shoulder.
Right. And then we were talking about the shoulder as an optional place, which is neutral. So if you internally rotate your arm, your elbows stick out. You externally rotate, your thumb sticks out. So you have to go to the extreme ranges, but your shoulder should be just in that middle portion. When it's middle, your arch of your elbow is up. It's like where you get blood, that part.
Yep. Yes. The white part of the arm.
You bend your elbows there, that's open, then your thumbs come on top.
Correct. Yes. I figured this out just a few weeks ago. I've actually been saying lately, arrange your upper arm out of the shoulder so your thumb's on top. Because if you try to get people's thumbs on, the hollow fist can't be formed unless the joints above it are properly hanging. How do you say that professionally
Well, I think it's the whole idea of proximal, nearer to the body, to distal. You have to stabilize proximally to get your distal mobility.
Yes.
So your shoulders have to work to make your wrists work properly.
Yeah, and to make the hand
independently, but as a whole chain.
Yes.
It's working together.
Yes. And they also, here's another, we were just talking about what is one thing you could say in a riding lesson to improve things. And looseness is definitely number one, but I used to say this all the time. I haven't said it in probably a decade, but I said it for at least a decade. Solve the biggest joints first.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a key as an instructor. Like for me, I always went to the pelvis.
Yep.
So if I can figure out the pelvis and then go up from there, look at the shoulder.
Yep.
If I have something in the feet,
yep,
it's not the feet's problem. It's probably the hip.
Right. Yes.
Like if I have something in the hand, it's not the hand problem, it's the shoulder.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not what you see, it's a symptom of something else.
Yeah, you have to go back towards the main stem. And the same thing is with the horses. Get their hindquarters properly functioning. Then the rest is easy. Nothing will work if you don't get that done. Nothing works in the horses. It just becomes a big, vain exercise in offsetting unless you get the hindquarters right.
Right. So that's what I've been thinking about the last week quite thoroughly and experimenting with like the subtleties of it. And it's very subtle, but it sticks to the principles that have been there forever.
Forever.
That you have to have your feet held to the fire and touchable so that you can be effective.
Yes. I wanted to say this was a great conversation, but I want to say it since you're here on the phone and a trained physical therapist. The ear over the shoulder, you talked a little bit about the alignment of the neck and head. So my eyes are looking around. My eyes are actually planning my route. I'm not just looking through the ears. I'm actually looking to places that I'm going. And my ear over my shoulder, what is that? How does that help the spine?
Well, it maintains that natural curve. So that natural cervical curve there is the ears. If you stick your head out, like your ear in front of your shoulder, you jut your chin out. Feel how your neck is locked.
Yes.
If you bring your chin back, ear over the shoulder, feel how your neck is neutral. And
Yes.
it's like has some springiness. Like if you bounce up and down,
Yes.
bounce up and down, your neck has springiness. Now if you
Yes.
jut your chin out,
Yes,
and
then
then
it's
try to bounce
locked.
up and down, your jaw's locked, everything's locked. So then your cervical spine is locked, which locks your lumbar. So it's all connected, just like the horse.
So
our
spine
is
over
connected.
line for the
Ear-
horse, and
Yeah,
our
ear over your shoulder allows you to be loose and elastic and mobile, like the parts can move, like cogwheels can move.
yes.
It's not like something stuck. And then that allows you to influence the horse properly.
I just thought of one final item on this shoulder upper arm, and I like that the upper arm is part of the plumb. The back of the upper arm is part of the ear, shoulder, hip, heel plumb
Yeah.
line. What is so amazing and important, and is probably the real reason why the shoulder must be over the hip. Yes, it then is going to set up a better situation for rein contact later on. But the shoulder properly placed and the upper arm hanging from it secures or ensures that all of the mass of the rider's upper body is beautifully lined up over the base of support, and the influence of the entire seat increases. The weight influence of the entire seat increases. Does that follow how I said that?
Yeah, I think it completely follows. I remember years ago, I put my husband on my horse. I just bought it a long time ago. And because he naturally sat really square, like his body,
Yeah.
My horse went on the bit just from his vertical weight.
That's exactly right. Vertical weight.
I was like,
yep.
Oh, I was so mad at him for being able to do that.
That is what the Germans mean when they say sitting a horse onto the bit. The vertical weight, and our weight is the most influential aid, and it has to be loose plumb.
I think as women, we drop our shoulders, or so.
We were hiding our boobs that we paid for.
Yeah, but we drop and then give, and then it's like the idea you said, don't let them take your elbows.
Yeah.
If they took my elbows, he was drop taking my shoulder.
Yes.
Negating my weight aid.
Yes. Yes. And when the shoulder gets in, when the head drops and the shoulder, if the shoulder comes 1/10 of a degree off the plumb line, that horse is loaded in the front, not the rear.
Right. So all very, very important stuff, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's pretty miraculous, the feeling of the lightness that the horse gets when you're just elastic and upright and in position.
Elastic, upright, in position. I love it. Yeah, the horses tell us right away, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, very interesting.
I think that we've covered a huge section again now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for talking it through with me. It's helpful for me to process it so that I can teach it and get the points across to people quicker.
Yeah, and I think that all of us as a group can to find ways to reintroduce the ideas of looseness, loose alignment, and the natural aids into the riding world. It's not there. They're not talking. All right, very good, very cool, very interesting.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for calling in. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that was interesting, I think. I hope you guys liked it. And it's what I did actually have in my mind that I wanted to get to the ears today, because last week I talked more about the eyes, but and just remember, the eyes actually have to be planning. It's not good enough to just seem to look. They must actually look and plan and navigate. And it's like a magic pill. A lot starts going better when that starts to happen. Now, I have a lot of office hours kind of announcements, but I think I'm going to wait till next week. Because I'm still technically on summer vacation, because it's still summer until September 21st. But I am going to start telling more people. I'm going to tell everyone on the schedule and the program about office hours and get this discussion growing. And well, you know what? I'm not going to say anymore. I'll start talking. I'll talk about that when I have it written out in front of me, so I don't go off on a tangent. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to office hours, and ride well. And I will put a link for class 108 in the description. There is a password, so email me for the password. I don't want just, actually, you know who I don't want my opposition finding out what's going on in this program and then like rewriting a couple words and using good writing that way. We're going to use good writing and the correct writing for making our horses go well and be happy and have fun. The horses. Okay. You guys.